Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Howdy everyone, my name is Robert, and I am one half of the Story Motors podcast. Along with my buddy Mike, we're a gaming podcast that likes to celebrate the things we love about gaming. We're often joined by incredible guests or friends, and you can find us on YouTube and all podcast services. And no, it's not like Story Motors with a T, it's like Story Mode difficulty in a video game, but then with like an RS at the end, so Story Mode-ers. We're not good at games, That's the joke. Anyway, I'm here to talk about a game that I absolutely love. But first, like any good recipe you'll find online, a little backstory. On October 21st, 2022, Atlus's Persona 5 Royal was added to Xbox Game Pass. I had never played a Persona game before, I had no actual knowledge of the games, and I wasn't even really a fan of JRPGs. In fact, the only thing I had seen from the game was a clip from an outside Xbox video titled 8 Moments That Made Us Go F This Game, which talked about the introduction of one of the party members. That being said, I saw some screenshots of the UI and my dumb little monkey brain lit up, so I decided to try it out. According to TrueAchievements.com, on October 23rd, 2022, just 2 days later, I unlocked my first achievement in the game, Spirit of Rebellion. On November 12th, 2022, I unlocked the final achievement, The Path Chosen. In between the first achievement and the last one, I'd spent 239 hours playing the game in those 20 days. I think it's safe to say the game hooked me. From there, I played all of the Persona games I could get my hands on across multiple platforms, completing them 100% on each platform. I'm talking all the achievements on Xbox. I'm talking platinum trophies. I'm talking whatever the hell the Steam achievements are called. I think they're just called Steam achievements, but I got them. I got them. And by the time June 11th, 2023 rolled around, I was deeply entrenched in the Persona ecosystem. Watching the Xbox Games Showcase that day, I went crazy for the Persona 3 Reload reveal, and got excited to try out something new in Persona 5 Tactica. I was already on Cloud 9 when I heard those two magical words. World Premiere. Immediately followed by a name I wasn't expecting. Atlus. This was the full reveal of their brand new IP, Metaphor ReFantazio. First announced in 2016 as Project ReFantazio, Metaphor ReFantazio was developed by Studio Zero, a new studio inside of Atlus, founded by Katsura Hashino, director of Personas 3, 4, and 5, among other games. As it is set in a brand new universe completely separate from the Persona and Megami Tensei games, the team had the freedom to make whatever they wanted to. Turns out, they wanted to create a magic-filled fantasy world complete with its own peoples, political systems, and social issues. And the fact that a lot of those themes mirror our own world was probably just a big coincidence. When Metaphor ReFantazio was released on October 11th, 2024, here in the USA, we were getting closer and closer to a presidential election that had the potential to change our lives for well beyond the 4-year term of whoever was elected. On one hand, you had the hand-picked successor to the current ruling party, who would surely bring a sense of keeping the status quo, not looking to rock the boat too much in any direction. On the other hand, you had...
In a word... chaos.
A man who expertly played on the fears and prejudices of his supporters, using them to fan the flames of bigotry and a strong undercurrent of us versus them. By laying the blame for all of society's woes on those in charge, promising sweeping changes with nary a concept of a plan, and figuratively calling for the heads of anyone who opposed him, he was able to whip his base into a frenzy, eclipsing all of the pretenders to the throne en route to a final showdown. Metaphor ReFantazio opens up with the assassination of the king of the United Kingdom of Uchronia, King Hythlodius V. Leaving behind no heir due to the apparent murder of the young prince some 10 years earlier, the future of the kingdom is in limbo, with two main actors vying for the throne. Sanctifex Forden of the Rogue Tribe, remember Tribe, we'll get to those later, is the late king's chief advisor, and he's someone who will keep the kingdom on track, keeping the status quo in line. And Luis Guilbern of the Clamar tribe, a high officer in the Royal Army, who would tear down the current regime and rebuild the kingdom in his own twisted design. He also just happens to be the one who killed the king, and there's a prevailing belief that he's the one who killed the young prince, but those are story threads that you'll get into during the 90-plus hours of gameplay. You don't play as either of these candidates, however. You play as a young boy of the Elda tribe, a people shunned by most of the kingdom, who are also thought to be mostly extinct, due to a massacre of their tribe that killed half of their entire population years ago. After this event, the remaining Elda went into hiding, causing the rest of the world to believe they were all wiped out. As the player, you're quickly brought up to speed to the fact that the young prince wasn't killed, but was instead placed into a curse-induced coma, physically represented by magical thorns wrapped around his body, which are constantly drawing power from the one who cast it, Luis. Look, I know it sounds weird, but trust me, it's pretty cool. It looks cool too. It's very obvious that there's a curse, you know. Along with the fairy Gallica as your companion, you're sent on a mission to lift the curse by severing the connection to it and to Luis, the only way you know how. You gots to kill him. And while this is already shaping up to be a hell of a story, you ain't seen nothing yet. When you make it to the Grand Trad, which is the capital of Uchronia, the city is holding the royal funeral of the king, and believe it or not, things don't necessarily go to plan. Not content with waiting for a formal coronation, Luis tries to seize control by stealing the royal scepter and anointing himself king. Before he can do so, however, he is thwarted by the king. Now, don't be mistaken, he's still super dead. But the royal magic he cast during his death comes into play in magnificent fashion. The entirety of the royal... Look, I know I've been saying royal a lot. It's a kingdom. There's going to be a lot of royalty, okay? So bear with me. The entirety of the royal palace begins to rise, completely disconnecting from the ground until it's high above the Grand Trad, watching over the populace. And that's not just a turn of phrase. It's literally watching over the populace due to the massive face of the king on the bottom of the floating landmass. Think of it like when Ultron started to lift Sokovia into the sky in Avengers Age of Ultron, but the bottom of it was the scary moon dude, big rock face from Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, and you're pretty much there. The big rock face in the sky announces that the next leader of Uchronia will not depend on whether Fitton or Luis takes the royal scepter first, but instead by a new radical idea, the will of the people. By using a brand new cutting-edge technology, I'm just kidding, it's more magic, it's always magic. The new ruler will effectively be voted in. There are no ballot boxes, no polling locations, and no hanging chads to deal with. Look it up, anyone born after the year 2000, that's really funny. The support of the majority of Uchronians will be the deciding factor. By tapping into the mind of each citizen, Big Rockface can see which person, official candidate or not, has the most support from the populace, and on October 27th, the annual day of the hero, that person will be anointed the new king. With this event as the catalyst, a new mission begins for our protagonist. Since Big Rockface said that anyone, regardless of tribe, could become king, he decides to publicly declare his candidacy. By doing so, he hopes to get close enough to Luis to murder him, thus lifting the curse, bringing the lost prince back to life, so that he may take his rightful place as the true heir to the throne. If you don't think about it too much, it seems to be a pretty solid plan. Mind you, this has all just been one scene from the prologue. There's a lot left to learn. Instead of being set in modern-day Japan, inhabited by normal humans, the kingdom of Uchronia is inhabited by 9 different tribes, there's that word again, each with its own physical traits, such as the horns on the Clamar, the pale skin and extended lifespan of the rogue, and the fact that the UG are like upright walking bats with giant ears that use sonar. They're different, you know. Instead of always being forced into turn-based fights, you're able to attack enemies in the overworld, defeating them instantly, as long as you're a few levels higher than them. You know, it's something you can unlock in Persona 5, but it's not just right off the bat, you know, so it's much nicer. This definitely comes in handy when dungeon crawling, though, let me tell you. And instead of social stats being a list of 5 different attributes that you have to level up based on your decisions in the game, you have royal virtues, which is a list of 5 different attributes that you level up based on your decisions in the game. Look, it's not all different, but they're named different at least. You know, it's still nice. While you do follow an in-game calendar, each month is 30 days, consisting of 6 5-day weeks, making it easier to know what day of the week it is, which will come in handy as some days of the week have their own, primarily commerce-related perks. Confidants got an upgrade with the game's followers' social bond systems. Now you can only spend time with your followers when they are available, but anytime you do, you'll level up that bond. This erases the need to grind social links with superfluous activities that take time away from doing other story-related things. The biggest update, however, comes with the archetype system. Similar to the Persona summoning system, selecting an archetype will give you access to use different magic-based attacks and powers while in and out of battle. What sets Metaphor apart, though, is the ability to assign these different archetypes to each party member. In most of the Persona games, the only party member who could change their persona was the protagonist, with the rest of the members being resigned to only one. Opening this up to your entire team adds a layer of strategy to battles, allowing you to fully customize their loadouts, mixing and matching different equipment, abilities, perks, and more. All of these improvements and changes from the Persona formula would be next to nothing if the game's themes were not also updated. While the things in the world of the game are new to us, the player, they're just part of Uchronia for the characters. The magic, creatures, the monsters, etc., they're all just there, without needing an explanation for the player. This frees up the writers to expand upon the ramifications of what's happening around it all. You're able to see how the public reacts to what you're doing, and how this new way of crowning a king brings out a new feeling in some tribes that have been looked down upon by the quote-unquote higher-class Clamar, Rusant, and Rogue tribes. Feeling of hope. This feeling of hope is why I wanted to talk about Metaphor ReFantazio, specifically due to the time that it came out. The political climate here in America has felt hopeless for a long time now. The idea of needing to vote for the lesser of two evils has been around, but 2024 kicked that into overdrive. While one side was content with the way things were, keeping the status quo had plenty of problems, especially for marginalized groups. People of color, LGBTQIA+ people, specifically our transgender homies, and immigrants, legal or otherwise, have seen their rights being slowly stripped away for years, with no relief in sight. The other side was promising to go full bore into stripping these rights as fast as possible, reshaping the country in their own design. That sound familiar? It should. That's the whole point of what it's a metaphor, to get it. Meta. And as we were getting closer and closer to the presidential election on November 5th, every day felt like a march to doomsday. The story in Metaphor could have felt like it was just adding more of that unease on top of what I was already feeling, which was actually the case for a couple of friends of mine, but I couldn't stop playing it, couldn't put it down. It hooked me in a way that I wasn't expecting. Being able to have true agency in the world, feeling like I was able to actually make a difference for those marginalized tribes, and, simply enough, not being stuck with the lesser of two evils gave me that feeling of hope. Hope that we can survive through the hardest of hard times like the Elda. Hope that one day we won't be stuck with those two same evils like the Kingdom of Uchronia, and hope that maybe, just maybe, we can inspire change, like our protagonist. Oh, you also fight a giant baby head at one point, so there's that. Happy gaming!
Hello there! My name is Leo, and I'm here to tell you all about my Dune podcast, Gom Jabbar, the perfect podcast for new fans of Dune and longtime fans of Dune alike. My co-host Abu and I dive deep in both spoiler-free and spoiler-heavy episodes covering, Frank Herbert's original novels, the film adaptations, the board games, the comics, the upcoming video games, the HBO TV series, anything we can get our hands on. We even have a companion book club series to make your first or your 15th read-through even better. So, if you recently saw Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Dune, or if you read Dune back when it came out in 1965, this is the podcast for you. You can find Gom Jabbar on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts, and we hope you join us on the Golden Path.
CPOV.
CertainPOV.com.